This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by the good folks over at Dipstick Vapes, makers of the innovative Dipper Vaporizer, which you can save 15% off the cost of when you use the discount code MJToday over at dipstickvapes.com. And don't forget, when you use the discount code MJToday over at dipstickvapes.com to buy the Dipper, Dipstick Vapes will make a donation for the amount of money you saved directly to our friends over at Students for Sensible Drug Policy, the most effective agents of change in the world of progressive drug and marijuana policy reform. I think it's fair to say that we wouldn't have legal marijuana like we have it today if it weren't for all the hard work done by everyone at SSDP. So support their mission and add a very cool and versatile tool to your cannabis consumption toolbox by buying the Dipper today over dipstickvapes.com using the discount code MJToday. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Friday, June 2nd, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 260 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day is a big story in marijuana media, with a group of investors led by Damian Marley, youngest son of the late great singer-songwriter Bob Marley, buying a controlling stake in Trans High Corporation, the parent company of High Times magazine, in a deal that values the company at $70 million. Besides their iconic magazine, Trans High Corporation, also known as THC, also counts their long-running Cannabis Cup series as part of their corporate portfolio. Although they've struggled recently to find their place in today's evolving marijuana media landscape, High Times does still have around 230 monthly print subscribers and receives more than 20 million unique visitors to their website every month. Company operations will be moved from New York to Los Angeles, with lead investor Adam Levine telling the San Francisco Chronicle that most of the editorial and management staff will stay on board. Swing over to the Chronicle for all the details on this one. CNN is reporting that Randolph Ailes, the newly installed director of the U.S. Secret Service, said yesterday that his agency will loosen restrictions on past marijuana use by applicants in a bid to boost their overall numbers. One of the lesser-known negative impacts of President Donald Trump and his large extended family and their habit of traipsing all over the world with Secret Service in tow is that the ranks of the Secret Service have been stretched thinly to cover all the extra security details. Yesterday, Director Ailes told reporters that his goal was to increase the amount of Secret Service personnel from their current level of around 6,500 to around the 10,000 person mark. In order to facilitate that growth, the Secret Service will now use what they call a whole person concept system to evaluate if the amount of marijuana an applicant has used in the past is enough to be disqualifying, whereas before they took a much harder black and white view on former cannabis users. Our final top story of the day brings us to New Hampshire, where Tom Angel over at MassRoots is reporting that a bill to decriminalize marijuana is heading to the desk of Governor Chris Sununu after being passed out of the state House of Representatives yesterday. The proposed measure would, if it survives a veto by the governor, reduce the penalty associated with being caught with up to 3/4 of an ounce of marijuana from a criminal misdemeanor charge to a civil violation. The bill would also protect people caught with up to 5 grams of hash and those caught with properly stored and labeled edibles sold in a legal state like Massachusetts. As part of a separate bill also passed that day, the state legislature also voted to add PTSD to the list of medical marijuana qualifying conditions. Swing over to Tom's story on MassRoots for all the details. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Dipstick Vapes, makers of the innovative Dipper Vaporizer, which you can use as a traditional pack-and-go vape pen or with a quick swap out for a vapor tip atomizer used to vaporize concentrates directly. I know one of the more common hesitations among cannabis consumers about getting into concentrates is the whole concern about having to use butane. There's just something so inelegant about having to use a blowtorch to consume your marijuana. When you have the dipper in hand, that's not a concern because it entirely replaces the need for the blowtorch. You can use the dipper like some kind of magic vape straw to vaporize your extracts directly, or by using their dip whip accessory, connect the dipper right to your traditional dab rig for full-blown use. The easiest way to see how it all works is to head over to dipstickvapes.com. And don't forget, you can save yourself 15% off the cost of the already affordable dipper and generate a donation to SSDP in that same amount by using the discount code MJToday over at dipstickvapes.com. That's discount code MJToday over at dipstickvapes.com. All right, time for the Blitz. Turning to Maryland, we have news of a number of lawsuits filed against a local police chief who is also a member of the state's Medical Cannabis Commission for a number of disturbing allegations, including sexual harassment and racial profiling. Police Chief Harry Robshaw III is reported to have instructed his officers to specifically target any car they pulled over with more than one black person in it because it most likely had marijuana in it. Police Chief Robshaw denies all charges and says that his accusers are lying. However, the truth lands on this one. It's not a good case to have in the news right now, considering all the upheaval in the state market over how Maryland state officials handed out marijuana business licenses, as I've reported on extensively in the past. California-based testing company Steep Hill Labs just announced that it's expanding its operations in its home state with a new branch in Los Angeles, as well as making a first foray into the Arkansas market. A medical marijuana company in New Mexico is suing the owners of the New Mexico Expo, the site of the annual New Mexico State Fair, for banning them at last year's fair from displaying information about medical marijuana, including photos of plants and products. The company is saying that their constitutional rights of free speech and due process were impinged upon by the ban. We'll report back on any resolution on this one. The Times-Union has a good piece up about the planned expansion of the New York medical marijuana market, with 5 new licenses in the works to be added to the existing 5. Department of Health officials are saying that the new licenses will be issued soon and will be given to the 6th through 10th place finishers in the original scoring done 2 years ago. Hawaii's first medical marijuana dispensary is on track to open up next week on June 8th, but customers may be a bit disappointed by the fact that they won't have any actual medical cannabis for sale quite yet. The state still has to finish certifying testing agencies before the legal medical marijuana can fully flow through their new system. As I report on recently, though, there's a large batch of cultivated cannabis awaiting that crucial stage, so once testing facilities are given the green light to operate, it won't be very long before dispensaries get their first deliveries. According to the numbers just released by the state of Alaska, their legal marijuana market generated $272,000 in tax revenue in the month of April. Alaska taxes their medical marijuana at the cultivator level at $50 an ounce for flower and $15 an ounce for trim and shake. In all, 269 pounds of flower and 275 pounds of trim and shake were sold by Alaska cultivators that month. Though the amount was $50,000 more than March's haul, it's still short of the pace projected by the state last year. Our final story of the day is an intersection of cannabis, criminal justice, and the environment. California's Oroville Mercury Register has a good story up about a group of recently arrested illegal marijuana cultivators who had the unfortunate stroke of seeing their misdemeanor charges upgraded to felonies because of the environmental damage wrought upon their growing grounds by their work. Arrested last month for growing large crops numbering in the thousands, the 3 men were hit with the more serious charges because they bulldozed a stream to divert water to their plants. This is a tough one for me because I don't think anyone should go to jail for growing any amount of marijuana, but there's a little part of me that's okay with sending someone to jail for bulldozing a stream. Tough call. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again Monday morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at MJTodayDaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Dipstick Vapes, and all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. Today's your day. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with Marijuana Today. today.
One take, Shay. One take.